Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tobacco Show. I am joined once again by my friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney, as well as my girlfriend, Smokin Nicole. And tonight we want to welcome on our very special guest. We have Mr. Kurt Kendall of 724 Cigars and Twin Smoke Shop in the beautiful state of New Hampshire. Kurt, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
We're really excited to have you on. This is a show that I've been looking forward to for a little while. We've had a lot of exciting guests. I'm glad that you're another one of them. It's been a fun month so far. But before we kind of get into everything, John, I'm gonna throw it over to you.
Good evening, Nicole, Matthew. Kurt, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What's your name again?
John
Are you the
Carney.
cooking guy?
Yeah, I'm with at the Hacking Gourmet show. It's funny. I used to live in New Hampshire. I've been by your store a couple times.
Have you?
Yeah, just a few times.
Next time you're there, ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Kurt, welcome aboard. Obviously, Kurt and I have a good friendship. For those that listen to shows that I'm on regularly, there's two cigar shops that really propelled my cigar love. One of them was Corona in Orlando. That's where I started smoking. And then my home away from home in the cigar planet is Twin Smoke Shop. That's really where my passion for this side of the industry began as a sales rep. Kurt was one of the first people I met in the business. So it's great to have you on Smokin Tabacco Show. We're glad we have you on now rather than a year ago, because we've gotten so much better going forward here. But what are you smoking tonight, Kurt?
I actually just lit up a prototype that came from our factory, which I didn't research it enough or talk to anybody yet, because it came in just a bundle with no description, no nothing. So I'm smoking this blind cigar that I don't know what it is, but it's possibly one of the blends we've been discussing and trying to put together for future projects.
That's kind of a fun way to smoke a cigar, I would think, with absolutely no idea what it is. And I think in that situation, just hope that whoever did make it, in that situation, that when you're looking at these test blends, that they know which one was which. Because I've heard times before where people put blends and things together and they didn't write it down, or they put something together just for fun and they weren't quite sure and they could never come back and find it again. But being totally blind on something is a good way to smoke a cigar. And as soon as I don't know if this is way with you. I mean, you being in the retail business now for what, 24 years, 25 years?
24
26?
years.
Ooh, that's a good
24,
guess.
yeah.
It's hard to believe.
You've been around a lot of consumers, and I think if you could take bans off cigars, which I think you've done this before with me and whatnot, where you've just given me something and said, hey, smoke this. When you take a band off the cigar, it really changes the way people think of it. And there's preconceived notions of the way the band looks or what the brand name is. And it's really fun. I'm actually smoking a cigar tonight without the band on it, too. I coincidentally do know what it is, but I'm not going to say what it is. But I'm going to smoke technically blind with you, too. But I love giving people cigars. One store I had at your store, Twin Smoke Shop, I walked in, and I came in with our bundled cigar. We had this bundle, the Cameroon bundle. I don't know if you remember this, but it was a little torpedo shape. So I brought this torpedo shape in the store. I gave it to all your staff. And they're like, oh, man. I'm like, I want you to try this as a test plan for something we're working on. And they were, like, blown away at how good it tasted, this and that. And I said to them when it was done, they're like, well, what was it? I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anyone because it's a secret. I'm like, it's the bundle cigar that we've made since 1994 with a Cameroon wrapper on it. I go, so if our bundles are that good, maybe you should try to start selling the regular Cameroon on its own, because that's the one that wasn't rejected. And everybody's like, oh, it was great. And it was fun to smoke it that way, and they were all in good fun. But that's exciting. Well, Kurt, thank you for being on the show. I said I'm smoking it. This is a Connecticut shade. I'll tell people what it is. I'm smoking a Diamond Crown, Connecticut. It's their Toro size. I was just down in Tampa about a week and a half ago at the J.C. Newman facility for a board meeting with the TAA, and we have a bunch of Diamond Crowns. So I've been smoking through those the last couple of weeks. But So you got a new project coming on. Like, is this some sort of a line extension? Is this a limited edition product? Is there anything you can tell? Like, what's your concept in your head of what direction you're going with something like this?
Well, we're always been working on new products, and with all the FDA nonsense going on in the past, we didn't know where any of them were going to go, if they were even going to debut. So I haven't been to a factory all year this year. So we've been doing blends by UPS, and we've been working on a few different line extensions and a few different special projects and limited editions. One of them came out this year. We did a collaboration with the Rumbo family in San Antonio, Texas at Club Humidor, and we did make them a cigar with their brand 113 and 724 combined. So we've been working on a few projects like that, and obviously looking to expand our portfolio.
Yeah, Kurt, I was while John was kind of going on there, I was just kind of getting the show set up. But yeah, I was just gonna say I'm smoking the 724 Lancero from the 1874 line. The first time I'm having this, I normally smoke the other Lancero that you have.
That's the one I'm smoking.
Yeah, so
which is, by the way, an
which is
absolutely
fantastic,
ridiculously good cigar.
I was saying before we even went live that I've actually was like, sometimes you just get in the mood for a certain cigar, and you like almost dream about it. Like, man, I really want one of those. And I've had that for the last couple of weeks, and I knew Kurt was coming on, so I was like, I'm gonna wait, make it special. But then when I actually went into Twins over the weekend, and I was there, we got a couple of things, and we were hanging out upstairs at the bar, and I hadn't had one of these, and I said, I'm gonna grab one of these too. And I decided to smoke this tonight, and so far I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. Kurt, you're a Lancero guy yourself, aren't you? Did he freeze?
I am, yeah. I love Lanceros. I have for a long time. I've always tended to go towards smaller ring gauges, and Lancero obviously being one of them. And we have a Londres in our line, which I smoke a lot, and very popular here locally, especially as John knows, people like to smoke what you smoke. So I smoke a lot of those narrower ring gauges, and in our retail stores, they tend to be very popular.
Yeah, I'm a Lancero guy myself, and I know that there's a what's the word? There's like a I don't know. There's like a thing with certain people where they frown upon. Yeah, stigma. There's a stigma with Lanceros where some people are just not a huge fan of them. I know there's a few manufacturers specifically who are not crazy about Lanceros. I'm not going to mention any names. If John does, that's different. But I know there's a few out there who have voiced their opinion on Lancero.
2021. I'm trying to pull over a new, trying to present myself differently this year. I'm not going to call as many manufacturers out, but I will say, if you don't do things that are ridiculous, I won't have to say anything about it. All right. So let's make sure we make better decisions this year.
But I love Lanceros. I know Kurt likes Lanceros. I just discovered the La Flor Dominicana Lanceros, which are awesome. I'm surprised that no one ever told me about that until recently.
There's three Lanceros for me that really, and I'm sure Kurt's got a different list, but there's three Lanceros for me that I really personally enjoy. One, I remember when I smoked the first 724 Lancero. I remember exactly where I was standing in your old store. I just reached in the cabinet, and you said, Johnny, you're like, hey, try that. And I like, no, I didn't. Like, is it good? And you're like, just try it. And so I grabbed it, and it was awesome. It was incredible. I mean, it was a great representation of that tobacco, incredible size in that line. So that's one Lancero that I really enjoy, because I'm not a big Lancero guy. I also enjoy the LFD Cameroon Lancero that we make. I really love Cameroon tobacco. I think that's a great representation of tobacco as well. And then my third Lancero, I don't know, to be real honest with you. So I guess for me, there's really two Lanceros I smoke. And for me, I don't like Lanceros because I smoke fast. So when you smoke faster, smaller ring gauge, it burns hotter. That's a little more intense. I'm not as casual of a smoker with any of the cigars I smoke. I tend to smoke heavy. So that's why I don't enjoy many Lanceros. But the two I mentioned, and specifically the 724, I remember physically the first time I smoked it. It was in like 2012. So that's a fun shape, and I think you enjoy hearing that too, because like you know what's going to happen when you smoke it. Like it is a great cigar.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good cigar. That blend does very well in that Lancero shape. And you know what? I've been fortunate where I've had a lot of people like yourself make very positive comments on our Lancero. And it puts a smile on my face to hear that. And I really do appreciate it as much as I love it myself. To hear other people talk about it is great. So thank you, John.
Yeah, well, what do you think is about that blend though? Like, because there is something special about it. Like, what do you attest it to?
Well, it's got the Brazilian Matafina wrapper, which tends to have a really nice aroma, nice flavor, and when it burns on that size, it is bright white ash, and it just tastes exceptional every single time I've ever lit it. So, lit it, is that a word? Every time I've ever enjoyed one. They're really good. It's hard to make a good Lancero, and it's hard to get the construction good and the complete blend. That's a 6-country blend of tobacco blended into a 38 ring gauge cigar. So not very easy. And but we've had great luck, and thank you very much for making that nice comment.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive to do. I mean, the 724 collection, in my opinion, is a great line. I mean, all the different things you have going on under the 724 umbrella.
Princess.
This is a. Sorry, I'm distracted by John over there. He's trying to do something.
No, I have a dog.
I lost my train of thought, John.
I have a dog just staring at me intensely off to the side here. He's literally. I look to the left, and the dog is just like this.
Yeah, he wants to.
Not even moving.
I thought maybe we were at the Bedford Ballet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, so, but yeah, no, it's pretty impressive, and I've always loved the Lanceros that you have, and not everyone does it. So when people do make one, it's nice when you find one you like, and I think you guys do a great job at that. Both of them. I mean, so far this one's fantastic as well. But even the other one I've had a bunch of times, and it's great. But with 724, that's an impressive story in itself. That's a name that's been around much longer than I think all of us. It goes even before you own the brand. I guess where I'm going with this is, Kurt, give us a little back history. I know there's a lot, but give us a little back history into the 724 brand.
So you're politely asking me to give you the short version, which is, you know what?
I know it's hard because there's a lot.
There is a lot.
Yep.
There is a lot of history with this brand, and it originated in 1874. A gentleman named R.G. Sullivan created this brand, and he started in a little storefront, small little factory at 724 Elm Street, Manchester, New Hampshire, and that is about 10 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'd say about 1905, 30 years later, they built the factory that most of us have seen. If you've seen our packaging, it's on the interior label of the box. It was a seven-story factory.
It's on the lighter that I have.
Oh yeah, there you go. They built a 7-story factory. In its day, it was a state-of-the-art factory. In the 20s and 30s, they claimed to be the largest manufacturer of 10-cent cigars in the world. So they had over 2,500 employees at the factory, working 24 hours a day. And there's a lot of great history and stories behind it, from the gentleman that started it to, some of the facts. He was the largest taxpayer in the United States, and he paid at that time over $500,000 in taxes. There's some really cool facts.
Wow.
You guys can look up if you want to read about it a little bit. But knowing that all those cool, interesting facts, and the fact that the factory was right down the street from us in our retail store, I decided to give it a shot and bring the brand back to life. So that's how I got involved with it.
And I would say, especially around here, I haven't, traveled around as much, but especially in New England, it is a popular brand. I mean, most people, all the locals around here, they all know 724. The three of us all smoke it. We all enjoy it. We're just talking about it. The Lanceros are fantastic, but even all the other stuff you have, you make barber poles. You got the dog walkers. You have the spider line too that you make. And then you have there's actually, and I'm sorry, I should know.
Factory 57.
Yes.
Which is my favorite.
Yeah. So I mean, you have quite the collection too within 724, and it seems to do really well. And every time I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure John feels the same way. Every time I've had anything from the 724 collection, it's always been really good. So you have good quality. It's always complex, good flavor, everything that you'd want from a good cigar. I've never had one that's been a dud. They've been fun smokes. But yeah, I would say the Lanceros are my favorite.
So for me, what's fascinating about the brand is, and there's a reason why, not because I was in Tampa at the J.C. Newman factory, but it was fascinating to me because I'd only ever been to, I've only been to one cigar factory in my entire life. It's La Flor Dominicanas. That's the only one I've ever been to. So I was at a cigar factory in Tampa at J.C. Newman, and J.C. Newman was a major competitor to 724 back in the day. And that company, J.C. Newman, started in Ohio, and 724 was in Manchester, New Hampshire, and they were a bigger company. It was a much bigger company, and J.C. Newman's grown into this. So it was fascinating for me when I was at their factory looking at the history of tobacco, and in the back of my head the entire time when Eric Newman's walking me through here was like, this is what was going on at your competitor in New Hampshire too. And I brought it up to him. I was like, oh, like 724 was this? He's like, yes, they were a competitor. I go, that's really unique. So there's very few brands in this industry that have that type of history from cigars back in the 1800s when it was all Cuban tobacco. And, when you get into the 90s, you get the embargo. And Kurt owns and has represented that brand really well. And he and I have always talked a lot too about, telling people about that history and the information things out there. And I think there's still room to have that story be told. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a brand that is just like essentially J.C. Newman, and obviously matured and it's different. And, the companies have gone different directions for a period of time. But when you got your hands on that, that's what you own now. You own a brand that's that reputable from that period of time. And I think you're doing it a great service. But other than your fascination for antiques and things, what about that brand locally really inspired you to get involved in that? What clicks in your head when it's like, this is something I need and this is what I want to do?
Well, it was a combination of that. The collection that I had of all the collectibles from around Manchester, a lot of antiques I collected, and then gathering the facts and learning the history of the brand, and learning what kind of guy that R.G. Sullivan was that started the brand. And he was a community leader, and he was very well respected. And, learning the facts, having the factory down the street that still stands today, and collecting all this stuff, I just thought, this brand's got so much to tell, and it was frustrated that it was just parked and it was doing nothing. So, we worked hard at getting that trademark and bringing it back to the market, even though I had no real plan on what to do with it. All I knew was it had to come back, and I had an avenue to sell them because I own my own retail store. So that's pretty much how it started, and from there it grew just a little bit under J.C. Newman sales.
I remember talking.
I still got endless ideas, and COVID kind of hit our discussions that we had planned in the springtime and whatnot. But as soon as we get back to a normal schedule, we we can sit down and I still got plenty of ideas for you, my friend. Trust me.
John, are you drinking out of a wooden cup?
Yeah, I saw that. What is that?
Yeah, I'm drinking out of a birch wine glass that I picked up in Texas a few years back. I decided to clean one of my display areas here in my place, and this was in the back. So yeah, I'm drinking out of a solid birch wine glass.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
Well, I guess I'd call it a chalice, right? It's more like a chalice.
What are you drinking inside that chalice?
It's called Grayson. It's a red wine. Man, this stuff's like $11 a bottle, man. It's incredible. It tastes very similar to like some of the Stag's Leap stuff we drink. But it's only $10, and it's really hard to find. And I've never been able to find it anywhere other than Meat and Bone. But I've been drinking wine. Obviously, I drink a ton of wine, but I've been drinking tequila lately. I know Kurt's a big tequila guy. What are you sipping on tonight?
I'm sipping on some Herradura. It's a Reposado. I've been fortunate enough to go to Mexico every year. We buy barrels of tequila. So this is actually a double barrel. They do it's a Reposado aged 11 months in a charred oak whiskey barrel. And then they put it one more month into a brand new American oak barrel and really picks up all the woods. So it's a single barrel product with a double barrel aging process. And so we've been fortunate enough to go to all the distilleries every year in Mexico and with a group, and we buy tequila 20, 30 barrels at a time. And I got in on it. I remember my first trip going, petrified that I was going to be that guy passed out in the back of the bus because I couldn't handle my tequila. But once you learn how to drink tequila and what it's all about, it's actually one of the cleanest spirits that you can drink. And you could drink that for hours, incorporating it with water. And, you got a nice little glow, and you feel like $1 million the next day. And once you learn about this spirit, it's very unique and it's exceptional. We sell a lot of tequila here.
And do you pick your barrels based on, people smoking cigars in your lounge? Is that like kind of the idea you have when you choose a barrel?
Like a pairing.
To pair.
Well, yeah, we do. And most of the barrels we bought are designed for sipping. But we also know that it's a big commitment to buy a barrel of tequila, typically about 240 liters or in and around there. And in order to sell through that, as popular as it is good to pick one that you can actually use in a cocktail as well. So most of the time we've been buying Reposados, which are very sippable and very mixable. We do have a couple of Anejos too. We just got a barrel of Corazon that was aged in a Weller 107 barrel. And that's very nice. But it's a great spirit to learn about and enjoy.
So Kurt, one of the things that I find interesting is, every time, we're local, so we come up to the lounge and we've been to the bar tons of times. So I mean, we know about this, but for those watching who don't know, who are maybe not from around here, you do have a pretty impressive bar. Not only is it a great atmosphere, it's a great time, it's a great place to hang out, smoke, drink anything in general. You do have a very impressive selection of spirits, even some beers too. There's everything you guys offer at that bar is pretty impressive, from your whiskeys to your tequilas, which are fascinating. It's really cool, especially if you're into that. But I guess the question I have is, how exactly did you get so into all of that, like the tequilas, the whiskeys, and picking the barrels? A lot of people would just order stuff from a distributor and stock their bar, but you actually really take the time to go to factories, like you said, pick barrels, really get into the science behind it. What led you kind of into that?
Well, as I've been in the cigar business a long time and learned a lot about tobacco and premium cigars, the goal has always been to have the best selection that I can afford and the best selection to offer my customers at all times. we're not in a real fancy environment, but I want the best of the best in what the market can bear here. So when we got into the bar business, we applied the same rules. So I chase whiskey in the morning. We buy all our spirits from the state of New Hampshire. It's a control state, and it's a huge market in New Hampshire, the liquor business. So trying to figure out what to buy and where to get it is a real challenge. So when new and hard to get whiskeys come in, or tequilas, you got to really do your homework. You got to figure out where it is in these state stores and chase them down, because there's not just a list you can pick from, especially of the rare things that you really want. So, our goal is to have the best of the best in a nice, comfortable environment that anyone can enjoy it in.
Yeah, I as a consumer, I appreciate that. As someone who's been to the 724 Lounge a bunch of times, and I know my two friends on here will agree with me. It's really cool because there's not a lot of places who do that. Some have some things, but it's very rare that you can walk into a bar and you can see at least a couple of the Wellers, or anything from Buffalo Trace. And then you look at that tequila lineup, and I'm getting more into tequila more so because when I spend time at 724 Lounge, it's kind of, it is a thing there. So for me, it's like, all right, well, what do they have for tequilas? And I'll often ask your bartenders, like Bree is a bartender there. She's awesome. She does a really great job. And we're like, hey, like I was there on Saturday night, and I said, hey, for example, the Corazon tequila, it's newer to me. But I'm interested in learning more about it, and what do you have, and just trying stuff, and learning a little bit about what it is, and just kind of getting to know it. And there's a variety of things there which are awesome. So if you're newer to certain spirits, it's nice because it gives you the variety to kind of taste some things, figure some stuff out. If you're a regular drinker of some of these things, and maybe you can't find it on your own, you can go to the 724 Lounge and you can have it there. You can buy a glass there. And also your prices are really good too compared to some of the places, especially in Massachusetts. Some of the stuff you have, if you were to go to any place in Massachusetts, the prices are usually double that, if not more sometimes, depending on where you go. So you have some really nice selections at very good prices, which I think is fantastic. That's a great combination to have, and I would say you've done a really good job of doing that. Also, just your cigar selection in general. We talk about Twin Smoke Shop itself for a minute. You guys have a really, really nice layout there. I know you have quite the humidor. You guys, quite the selection. So anytime you go up there for a cigar and a smoke and a drink, so to speak, there's always going to be plenty of options. You go there for a Friday night, Saturday night. I know you mentioned it's a Wednesday night, and you said you guys are busy. You guys are busy now. You guys have a band up there, and it's a great time. So, if you're ever in the area, it's definitely a place to check out. You won't be disappointed. But having said that, really quick, I want to throw it to Nicole, because I'm trying not to lose track of time like I normally do. Nicole, what do we have for news this week?
So welcome to Cigar Industry News, brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. Join the ambassador program today with McAuliffe. So this week we're going to talk about a couple of things. First off, Cigar Aficionado's Big Smoke Meets Whiskey Fest has been postponed, supposedly until October 30th, but that's probably why. And actually, sorry about that. I just read that completely wrong. Until April, it had been scheduled for April 3rd. So.
It was scheduled for April. Now it's
yeah.
moved to October. Yeah.
Correct.
Which is interesting because normally they do, I think, the Florida in April, or at least that's what they did last year, and then November is the Las Vegas Big Smoke. So now.
So the interesting thing you're going to have here is you're going to have Whiskey Fest with. By the way, this Whiskey Fest and combination with the Scarfish now, I think is going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. The last Big Smoke that we had in here in Hollywood and Miami, I would say, is if you're a cigar smoker, must attend. Bang for the buck, really easy, tons of hotel rooms, inexpensive to get down to South Florida. I think it's going to be huge. The one they did, the last one we had was 2 years ago now, almost, was fantastic. It was the first time they'd done it at that venue. It was over the top. It was really well done. The previous year, they were the Fountain Blue at Miami Beach. It was awesome, but Miami Beach is a little different scene. Hard Rock knocked it out of the park. The issue you're going to run into right now is everything's getting canceled, right? Because nobody wants to be the first, and the vaccine thing, everybody's being cautious, extra cautious, waiting for the vaccine. And then there's people not being as cautious. There's places that are open more than others, but really, the vaccine is going to be the end-all, be-all, no matter how you feel about the situation. So when you cancel things, the obvious time to do it, because November's tough because of Thanksgiving, December's tough because of Christmas, September's tough for the premium cigar industry because everybody's over in Europe, unless that gets canceled in September, which who knows what's going to go on in Europe at that time with the Intertabac. But you got everybody moving everything to October. So October is going to be a ridiculously busy month for stuff going on in the cigar industry.
But will it actually happen?
I think so. I think you're going to see. I think if you're going to want a COVID vaccine, you're going to be able to get one by July. Anybody's going to be able to get one if they want one, and people traveling are going to be forced to get one, which is a different story for a different day. But yeah, I think October that stuff's going to happen. I think you're going to start to see some things really tighten up over the next 3 to 4 months. The incoming administration said 100 days, right? So that's 3 months. So hopefully by April, we're in a spot where people can comfortably plan things. But October is going to be a crazy month with this stuff, because that's the month everybody picked. Because I'll tell you, on the manufacturer side, that's a month. Everybody's like, oh, there's not much going on in October. Not much going on in October. So IBCPR is probably going to look at that. TAA is probably going to look at that. You've got the the retail side are looking at maybe doing some events in October. It's going to be a really busy month for cigars. So if you're a cigar lover, get ready for October 2021. There's going to be a lot of shit going on, and then you got the Vegas show, the Vegas thing with Big Smoke in Vegas with Cigar Aficionado going on in November. It's just a few weeks after. So you got Bang Bang. There's going to be 2 really big months for cigars. Cigar functions are going to be October, November.
Well,
I think.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll have to see how it unfolds with that. But the other thing I do want to pick your brain on, since you're our industry expert here, John, is the FDA came out with some news, or I should say an update regarding the substantial equivalence. And so they finalized it for flavored cigars and other tobacco products, but they still haven't finalized it for cigars quite yet. But they did expand on their, I believe, definition of cigar.
Really interesting timing, right? The last administration left, and this came out last night. I think the FDA through the most recent court case got put into a position where they were told they didn't essentially do their due diligence. It may not be the proper term, but they didn't do their due diligence or enough investigation or this to explore premium cigars for substantial equivalency, X, Y, and Z. So I think the timing is really important to look at because it happened last night. And Donald Trump's administration left. The person who's in charge of the FDA is going to be gone. And there's going to be somebody new in there. And really what the timing for that to me, other than just the information, because really what they did is just reiterate what happened in the court filings several months back. I don't even remember when it was at. This last 10 months has been a blur. But they reiterated what they'd already said. And essentially what they did is they set up a direction, in my opinion, for the bureaucrats that work in the FDA, because the director goes and the leadership leaves, but the people that do the work still stay there, right? So they set up a direction of how things are going to go and reiterated what they said. And I do not think it's a coincidence that it happened on the way out the door at a very last-minute thing last night. I think that was a situation of, I don't know if it's going to make a big deal because they can still do whatever they want because there's a rulemaking process within the confines of what the court ruled. But that does make a big impact. And I think that was somebody not calling in a favor, but I think there was somebody say, this is important. Please make sure that there's somebody in your agency releases a statement on this so there's direction going forward. And I said the bureaucrats, it's become a bad term because it probably is, but the bureaucrats are the one that really get the work done. The reason we can do a peaceful transition of power is because there's people that are running the White House, right? There's people that are running the House and the Senate. There's staffers. It's not just all of a sudden people come in and it's just a new staff and no training. I mean, you can't even start a new job at McDonald's and not have a training period of a few weeks, right? So the bureaucrats never leave, and they use it as a negative term or positive term. You can take it as you want. But this directed the bureaucrats on what to do during this transition. And when somebody else comes in, and it's going to make an impact for an extended period of time, I really don't anticipate anything in regards to the FDA that's going to be substantial or significant probably in the next 12 to 16 months to see where things go because of that type of direction. And we'll see what happens with the next FDA director. But that was a really nice gesture on the way out because they didn't need to do it. And I thought that was a really unique thing as the administration, exchanged over to the next administration.
And that was Carneynomics, brought to you by John Carney and McAuliffe Cigars.
Yeah, there it is. Unofficially
Carneynomics.
from McAuliffe Cigars. I know Dan Thompson really wanted that to happen.
Coined that segment.
But yeah, no.
Well, they sponsor the news, so we can call it the news and Carneynomics.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
At the same time, we can do whatever we want with it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. By the way, I this is off the record, but on the record, and I'll probably be one of the worst participants, just because I obviously have other obligations. But I did actually become a McAuliffe ambassador last week.
Oh, interesting.
I will not be the most outspoken. Thank you. I will not be the most outspoken. I will not be I won't be a huge proponent. I'll be a big proponent of what they do for the industry and getting everybody together in one place from all competition, all their competition from different walks of life. And I think they've done a great job at that. And that's why I joined, because I thought they've done a really nice job with their ambassador program and bringing people from different areas, really supporting the premium cigar culture. So yeah, I joined. I'll be a silent ambassador, but I did get that. I'm looking forward to receiving my coin and my certificate, and that will be set in my little section that I cherish. But I'll probably be their worst ambassador, but that's fine.
You can't be any worse than Orlando Perez. I'm just going to be one to say it right out loud. You'll never be as low as Orlando Perez, but maybe you can be a notch above him. I kid. Orlando is a contributor with us, so we have to give him a hard time. But he's also an ambassador. Who's
on the news
who,
thing?
he keeps the.
Oh yeah, Orlando. Yeah.
He keeps the chat room hot. Anyway, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, Kurt, I don't know if any of these things like that, if go into your consideration, a way of looking at things, like the big smoke event. Do you look at that as something that do you make decisions based off of that, or is that something you're just curious about? Obviously, the FDA is a big deal, but does that impact what you're doing, or is it just a kind of a side note?
Are you talking about the FDA situation you just talked about?
No, I'm looking at say, like when these big events are being rescheduled, like the Big Smoke, the TAA, the PCA. How does that impact how you do business? I know Big Smoke's a consumer-driven thing, but Cigar Aficionado's the largest largest periodical, largest magazine and media source in terms of the premium cigar industry. How does that type of stuff impact what you're doing?
Well, I would assume that a lot of the decisions there are made, city and state to state. But I'm also definitely paying attention to the trade shows that we're all involved in, and the TAA show, and the TPE show, and then the PCA show. We got a lot of letters here.
I know.
And planning for those, and being prepared to go and show your goods and be at your best is not easy to plan when we got all this stuff going on, a lot of cancellations. We have our biggest trade show, Super Bowl of the year, coming up in July, and we don't even know if we're actually going to be there. They did just cancel the TAA show that was in Casa de Campo, Dominican Republic this year, which is disappointing for the second year in a row. Or they postponed that one.
Postpone. I am a board member of the TAA, so it's postponed. And we are looking at some other dates for that. But that's a really uniquely different experience, right? It's a retailer association that's generally smaller. So that's a really unique situation. And that is disappointing because it's a unique experience. And I think even though it's a larger scale, I think PCA could take certain things that the TAA does and maybe try to implement some of that. And I think they try, but the challenge with the PCA, right, is that their biggest thing is that they're a lobbyist group, right? So you look at TAA, they're a representative or association that represents an industry, but not the same way that PCA does. PCA was generated and created and founded to be an advocate, essentially, on an industry wide thing, and it's a big association. The same thing like the National Restaurant Association, and National Rifle Association, things like that. So it's challenging, and for you it's challenging because you as a retailer go to those to buy. And your general manager on your retail side, Sean, participates in that. So that impacts the way that you spend money, cash flow, how you plan things, and how you're going to buy month to month. And then as a brand owner, you're also a presenter there at those shows. So that's a challenge. So I don't know, like, are your plans, if PCA happens, to be there?
My plan is to be there, yes. We have reserved our space. We paid for it. We're excited to be there. We're making plans now for some new products and exciting new things, exciting new ventures, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I did hear rumors of the possibility of maybe a last-minute change of venue. So when you hear these things, it's complicated because logistically, it's challenging to maybe be in a different city or state, especially when your trade show booth is stored in Nevada from 2 years ago. So it's I'm anxious to see what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it happens because it was disappointing not going last year.
Yeah.
My thoughts on that stuff has always been, and coincidentally, I've never been asked, and I'm around a lot of these people. And and maybe sometimes I got ideas for everything, right? We've all known each other for a long time. Kurt, you've known me the longest. I mean, I've always got big ideas and things, and that I try to throw out there. And I've never been asked, but I think there's some simple solutions. And if anybody's watching for PCA and wants some of these simple solutions, I'd be happy to give them to you. All you got to do is ask. I'll give them to you. If you don't ask, I won't, because I got my hands full doing everything else that I do. But there's some simple solutions, and I think some of the things that you kind of just alluded to is maybe like a change of venue, or this and that, or there's possibilities we're doing. Wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if you're trying to reinvent something that's been challenged. It would be wrong to assume that there wasn't some challenges when you lose three of your biggest, beneficiaries, three of your biggest supporters, in the last couple of years. I think change isn't a bad thing, and I think this is an opportunity to maybe make some change in a time where everything we're doing is uncertain. So if PCA is a little bit uncertain, it's not as bad as it would have been 2 years ago if they were uncertain, because people are like, man, they can't get their act together. I mean, I don't even know when I'm getting cigars next in my warehouse. 2 years ago, that would be insane. And now it's a unique situation, but it does make it challenging for planning. But I think as a big association, if there's any time to have a change, this might be it. And because it's, what do you have to lose? Right.
That's true. That's true. And we've had a lot of challenges with the manufacturing of our R724 brand and actually getting product. And in a way, as slow as it's been getting the product, it's actually a small blessing in disguise, because as our sales force isn't out pounding the road like they normally would, the sales historically might have slowed down anyway. So, the internet sales are up, some of the brick and mortar's up, but a lot of it's still not even functioning right now. So it's hard to navigate through all this stuff and do the right thing.
Kurt, I know that we've talked to some other retailers, around the country, and again, that whole city and state thing comes into play because it's different everywhere. No one's doing the same thing. And I know some of the your fellow retailers in New Hampshire, some of them have done well during the pandemic. Some of them maybe haven't. Where you have a cigar retail establishment as well as the bar and lounge, how much of an impact has that had on you guys in the last 10 months or so?
Well, our bar was closed down over 3 months, and our retail store was closed for a few months, where we were forced, but fortunate we were, our governor let us do curbside business. So we had to pivot in so many different ways to continue to keep our employees employed and keep the bills paid, keep the lights on, and keep an inventory. Fortunately, we have a huge inventory in premium cigars, and that really helped because it's been a challenge getting some of the brands. But overall, our numbers in the second quarter were crazy. Right now, it's unbelievable how much business we're doing in the retail side, and everybody is so anxious to get out of the house that we have to have somebody at the front of the lounge and bar monitoring how many people are coming in the door, because we have a full house just about every night.
Yeah,
Trying to follow the rules.
Another thing with that too that I've noticed, because I haven't traveled much the last couple months, but I traveled a lot in August, September, and October. I went out almost on a normal schedule, and then I scaled it back in November because I want to see what was going on out there. We've done shows with me in different places over the last during that part of the year. I mean, we had some crazy stuff that was, you look at now. I mean, there was one night I was in a nightclub and we were doing a show, and that was, you look at it now and like, oh man, we were in a nightclub that was a little bit wild. You probably wouldn't do that now. But the big thing is, I think for the premium cigar business, I think, Kurt, you probably agree, is people are limited in their time of their options to go out, right? And so when they go out, there's inconveniences now going out because of regulations and this and that. Like, one of the biggest challenges for the restaurant industry is the restaurant experience isn't as great as an experience as it used to be. Even if you're going to get good food, you got to make sure you're separated. You got to make sure you got this on. You got to get that on. Even more challenging in Massachusetts than it is in other places. But New Hampshire's, still challenges. Oh, I got to wait in the line a little bit longer because there's not as many people allowed in the building. So you look, and people have really started to make decisions on what value they put in their time out. And the premium cigar industry brings a lot of value. Like, what else can you do for 2 hours without a mask, socially distanced, for like $10? You can buy a cigar for $10. You can go buy a drink for $10. That's an hour. That's $20. Like, you can't go out to a restaurant for an hour and spend $20. And I've had people that weren't cigar smokers from the Hacking Gourmet show that have become avid cigar smokers now at different ages. I've got people that watched it because they liked food and they were interested in what we're doing that. Then they became cigar smokers. Now they want to see what's going on in the lounges. There's really nothing that you can do that is that. And we've always talked about this as an industry, but there's no better time and no better representation than this, where value, the perceived value and the value they actually receive as a consumer is unmatched in the cigar business, period. It's just not matched. Like, you're at home, you're stuck at home, you light up a great cigar and have a great drink. Boom, $15. You're there. Life's good. You go to a cigar bar, you sit down at 724 Lounge, you grab a 724 cigar, you grab a drink, $20, 1 hour. Perfect. And if you stay an extra hour, I know you had times where you had to limit the time people were in there. Where could you do that experience? There's just no other place to do it. There's no value like that. And that's such a special part of the premium cigar industry and how it's performed very well, I think, during this challenging time, because the value is there and people value their time and value the convenience and value the experience so much more than they did before. We used to take it for granted, right?
That's right. I really hadn't thought about it like that. That's a really good point to bring up. It is a great value. It's entertaining. You can't go to the movies right now or go to a show or go watch a band. You can't do a whole lot other than sit home. And right now, up here, it's about 25 degrees out. There's nowhere to go smoke. Even trying to smoke out in the garage right now is a bit of a challenge.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I have a lot of places to smoke, but not a lot of people do. My disadvantage is when I want to go have a cigar and socialize with people that I might not necessarily know, it's a little tough to do because there's not a lot of places where I could step out and go. But so I do appreciate what we have here, and I think our clientele does as well.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
John, sometimes you get people that'll pull a whole shift here. They'll stay for the day.
I don't know who you could possibly be talking about that would do that. Coincidentally, when I first got promoted to vice president of sales, I lived in New Hampshire, and I used to. Monday was always an office day for me, and I would spend every single Monday from the time they opened in the morning to the time they closed, and then the weekends when I got back. But I wasn't the only one. That was the reason why. There was other people around, and there's great friendships that continue on, and from that. So it's a truly special environment. It's been fun during a silver lining in COVID is to see people experience that and then want to be a bigger part of it. I have a great friend of my family's almost my whole life. I've known him. His name's Wade Hill. He wouldn't mind me mentioning his name. He wasn't a cigar smoker. And when COVID hit, he was like, I'm very interested in what you're doing. He's always been interested in me. He's family. And he got into watching the cooking shows. He's like, I love the cigar thing you're doing. And he's like, I spoke to my wife, and she said that I could get involved in cigar smoking. And now he's like a cigar aficionado. And this happened in the last 10 months. And he's not the only person to run into, but it's a family friend. So it's great to watch it. And that's happened with this. There's literally nothing else like this. And I said we always used to say it as a talking point because it was always fun to say it, right? Because that's what you say, because we all knew it. We all really know it now. And other people are getting to experience it. So it's super special. And I said, I've spent plenty of time over COVID and over the last 8, 9, 10 months when I've been up home in your establishment, whether you've been there or not. I've actually sat in your office and did an interview there one night, which was great. Everybody thought it was my man cave. Fantastic.
But, you didn't clean the ashtray, by the way.
I got a little drunk that night.
John has a reputation for being a little messy.
Yeah, just a little bit of a slob. No, I'm just kidding.
A little bit. JK.
But it's been
Cole,
fun.
did we take over your news segment?
Oh no, we moved on from that.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah, no, we're good.
we hit the we hit the points. No, we're good.
Yeah.
No, actually, what I was gonna get into next, if it's okay. So we've talked a little about.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it, John. We've talked 724. We've talked about twins. We've talked about the lounge. We've talked about cigars. We've talked about spirits. Which actually I'm gonna pour myself another glass tonight. I'm drinking something special. I didn't want to like try to up drink it, Kurt, but this is one of my favorites. And that's George T. Stagg. And I only pour it on somewhat special occasions, and this is a good occasion for it. So
good for you.
I'm gonna pour tonight. No, what I wanted to ask you next was, so aside from that, something that I know is a passion of yours outside of work, the business, and all that, is antiques. Specifically, I know you're really into kind of antiques in general, but I know specifically you collect a lot of antique signage and stuff like that. How did you get into that?
Well, that's a great question. I've been fascinated by antique advertising probably for close to 40 years. I think I recall as being like a 16, 17-year-old, trying to find an old Coke machine or Coca-Cola sign. That's kind of how it started. But I've been chasing signs and advertising for that long. And, I've had a few breaks in it, but I'm surrounded by it. I like antiques in general, but especially antique advertising. And if you could see what was in front of me right now, there is signs everywhere. I've run out of wall space, so now they're on the floor. They're leaning up against the walls, and I can't get enough of it. Most of my waking hours that I'm not working or doing this, I'm searching classified ads or just following leads on either finding whiskey or looking for antiques and mostly signs. So I collect everything from gas and oil memorabilia, cigar, tobacco, candy, soda, thermometers. I've got signs that are 25 feet long, and I've got signs that are, the size of a coaster. So it's a real thrill for me, and it's a thrill of the chase, just like anything else.
Right.
Whether you're chasing an antique, a bottle, a companion, whatever it is, it's fun and it's
Companion. I like
exciting.
that.
What I will say for our followers too is that
The
you do.
companions chase me.
Okay, John.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Pat
Casanova
himself on
over
the back
there.
out there.
What I was gonna say is, for people who are watching right now, though, if they follow you on Instagram, I know you do post a lot of pictures of some of those signs. Not a ton of them, but enough that you can see them like lined up on your garage, or I've seen them, and they are pretty cool. I think, side note, the coolest I've seen is I went to the Guinness factory in Dublin, and they have a whole floor dedicated to like their vintage Guinness signs and
Wow.
advertising, which is phenomenal. I recommend that. They have like a 7-floor factory there, factory tour. So, but they devote a lot of space just to their vintage advertising. Side note, but
People ask me all the time, Kurt, why don't you post any cigar posts or you smoking cigars, or because I do tend to post a lot of my daily interests, which are advertising signs, old cars, and fun stuff like that. So I'm not the guy that's posing out in the tobacco field. I do what I do, and I enjoy cigars, and that's how I make a living. So it's a good combination for me personally.
The in terms of your antiques that you've collected, out of everything you have, or maybe you had at one point, what would you say? What was like one thing you wanted, and it was the hardest to get, or maybe it was almost impossible to find that you did find you were able to get?
Well, for years I've been collecting 724 memorabilia, and back when it was very hard to come by, the internet was relatively new, and we were chasing antiques from antique shop to antique shop. You weren't looking online, scrolling through, wondering, well, as long as I'm willing to spend the money, I can have basically anything I want. Well, when the internet became popular, I was constantly bidding on 724 memorabilia. And what happened was I started realizing that I'm bidding against my own friends, and then especially this one lady that I never met before, but I couldn't stand her because she was willing to spend money like I was, and she was driving the prices up crazy. So although I didn't know her and I never met her, I just didn't like her. And I'll never forget the day that I get the phone call from her asking me if I was willing to buy her 724 collection. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to buy all this stuff that I already bid on. And she won because she was willing to spend more. But when I got to her place, I became very good friends with her. And she had some of the most incredible pieces that I didn't have. So I got some really unique 724 one-off signs and smaller pieces that I'd never seen before, including today. And that was an exciting day for me I stepped up to the plate, and it was hard to spend the money she was asking, but I knew, when you see it, you got to buy it. You can't drag your feet, even if it's a little more than you're willing to cough, because tomorrow it would have been in somebody else's collection.
Yeah, I mean,
and they would have been calling you 5 years later, and you would have been doing the same thing over again, right?
That's right.
It's funny because it's
right
like in
now in the sign world, there was never a lot of guys collecting signs. They were hard to come by, but in any day you could go out and hunt and find something. Today, with all the TV shows and the American Pickers and shows like that, they've driven the market up like crazy, and it's hard to buy them right now. And the prices are typically above what I'm willing to spend. So the thrill of finding some in a garage or an old barn is really the way I like to find them. But there's too many people out there scouring all these places.
I feel like it would be more fun, the hunt itself, and it would be more satisfying, and and more fun when you do just stumble on it in someone's house, garage, barn, like you said, versus like, oh, it's on eBay. Like, okay, like there it is. I could just, bid on it, win it, buy it, and it gets shipped over. It's that like you're looking and then you're like, oh, what is this? And you that turnover and you find something and it's like a discovery.
Yeah.
I could see that being more of the thrill of the hunt.
I did hunt down and find in prime COVID timing the find of all finds, and a gentleman called me and said he was selling a house for a client, and they had an old truck in the barn, and those calls are what you're dying to get, and 9 out of 10 times it turns out to be a bad lead or a piece you don't want, or the story wasn't necessarily true. But this was like the ultimate story on I bought this 1966 Chevrolet pickup truck, and it was a factory paint, original 44,000 miles, super rare version, and the price was like unbelievably reasonable. So everything lined up perfect, and I bought that truck from the owner after over 50 years, and now it's one of my prized possessions. It's not shiny, it's just super cool and fun.
Yeah, you have a couple of antique cars. I know you have you have a Shelby Mustang. I believe that's a 65, 66, I want to say 67. Oh yeah, that's right, because it's what came out. Yeah, sorry, 67. Yeah, and see in the background there in your office, you have some Cobra photos and some Shelby stuff on the wall. So I know that you're definitely a Cobra and a Ford guy, that's for sure. What other antique vehicles have you come across? Maybe you have owned in the past, or you still own now. I know I know you've gone through that realm as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I've literally owned, I don't know if I could say hundreds, but I've owned a lot of antique vehicles, and I've had some really cool ones, and I bought and sold a lot of them from the time we were young teenagers. And then I was very fortunate. I got to a point where I started really enjoying Fords, and I was able to get a few keepers. So you buy and sell and flip cars and have fun at it, and you eventually find one that qualifies to keep for the rest of your life. So I've been fortunate enough to get a few of those along the way, and but still hunting them all the time, still looking. My head is always on a swivel when I'm driving, looking for a sign on the garage or a car in the backyard.
I can see where maybe you might have gotten that bug for hunting down some of the, especially like the bourbons, specifically, there's, for those who don't know, there's a lot of allocated bourbon now. A lot of stuff that maybe used to be readily available is now harder to find, and we touched on that earlier. I can see kind of where you got that hunting for bourbon sense from. You have all that experience from hunting for antiques, and especially the 724 memorabilia specifically, because that was, that's a specific thing that obviously means probably the most to you, and that's your brand now. But being such a storied brand, there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot to collect from that history, and I always found that interesting. You collect antiques, whether it's signage, especially cars. It's funny when you go to Twins, it has this kind of, when you go inside, especially you go up in the bar, it's got, and I like to tell people this, and it's one of my favorite things. It's got this like rustic feel to it. Like I know you were saying like, well, it's not the fanciest place. It's not like a Davidoff of Geneva, but it's definitely a place I love to be in because it does have that rustic feel to it. It's definitely the kind of place you want to smoke a cigar, have a drink, lay back. It's cool, and I like how you've kind of created that theme for the business based off of your own personal interest, which I think is great. It's got your personal touch on it, and it's definitely cool to see when you go in there. John, you might be muted, by the way. Sorry, I had to mute you before. You have to undo it, bud.
Wow, this is pretty cool.
How did I get muted?
I could tell he had something to say, but I don't think he knew he was muted.
Oh, Matt muted you.
Yeah, you got up and I was getting a bunch of background noise. Sorry.
Sorry, John.
Wow. I'm speaking on my microphone here. I have this microphone. I have a new microphone.
There we go.
I'm listening through my earpiece, and I have a new webcam. We're getting very technical around here. But no, I think the thing that's most unique, what you've created, Kurt, is that it is unique. There's nothing else like it. So when, I'm on a show and people ask me, where's a must-go place? You said Davidoff of Geneva, right? Like, so the Davidoff lounges are really special and unique. And you said, oh, it's not necessarily like that or whatever. It doesn't matter if like it's necessarily like that. It's different. It's equally as nice, if not nicer, in a different way, right? So it's one of the must-go places, in my opinion, as a cigar smoker. So you look at places around the country. People always ask, like, where would you go? There's tons of beautiful spots. I don't know if you've been down to Fort Smith, Arkansas yet, but there's this place called the 906 Lounge. Really a high-end, very nice. Kurt's place, 724 Lounge, nothing like it. Got to go. The Davidoff Lounges. There's a bunch of them around the country, so there are things like it. You still must go. Even in New Hampshire, Two Guys Smoke Shop. There's nothing like Two Guys Smoke Shop. And I think New Hampshire is one of the friendliest states in terms of retailers and the relationships you all have. You're all doing something uniquely different. And I think that's really what's made it special, is when you go to a place like that, is that it is different. Like there's not another place. People's like, where's a place like Twins that I can go? And I'm like, well, you can go to the other Twins, and you can go to the other Twins and Hooks It. I go, and then you can come back to that. And then somebody says, where's another place like Costa Monte Cristo in Countryside, Illinois I can go to? I'm like, well, there's not. So you're in that spot of, I'd say probably 10 retail outlets in the country that there's literally nothing else like it. There's some stuff that's special. There's lots of special retailers out there, but you've created an experience outside of the cigar world that's really not matched. So there's nothing else like it. So when you go to a place that's like that, you remember it. You have that feeling, and that you want to go back because you cannot get that experience anywhere else. Like if you go to Corona in Orlando, you can't go anywhere like that. So you get that experience. You're like, I got to go back. And that's one of the obviously you're a very good customer of our brand, and like family to the brand and personally. But still, one of the reasons I go back, even if you're not around. I mean, how many times do I come to town and don't tell you I'm there because I'm just hanging out, and you're like, oh, hey, I heard you were in town. Like I want to go and just have that experience, outside of that. So it's an unmatched thing, and what you created is great. And I can't say it enough. I'm not saying it just because you're in the show. I mean, I say it when I'm on other people's shows talking about places I go, and I know you are, but you should be very proud of that and what you're doing. And as I said, it's literally unmatched because there's nothing else like it.
Well, thanks, John. Think about all the characters we've met at this place over the years.
Oh,
it's unbelievable. Thousands of true characters.
The
so many nicknames, so many stories.
The one thing I want to hit on really quickly before we run out of time, so we can circle back to Kurt right before we end. I just want to touch on Nicole. We have sports for the week, and that's brought to you by Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova, make Nova big. You can head over to novacigar.com and use the code SMKTAB15 to save 15% off of your next order from novacigar.com. Football, that's kind of been our theme. Hockey has started again, which is exciting. Still a shortened season, but we're going to see hockey. Basketball has started. We have an NBA season. But while those two seasons are getting rolling, we're looking at the end of the football season, and now we're going into championship week. We're looking at NFC and AFC. We got Green Bay is hosting Tampa, and we're looking at Chiefs hosting the Bills. Now, for me, look, I know John is still a Tom Brady guy. I love Tom Brady. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm from New England and all of that. But when he left New England, I was like, well, now that he's not carrying the Patriots anywhere, I wanted to see some of the other great quarterbacks prevail. So for me, I've always kind of liked the Saints. I've always liked Drew Brees as a player. I wanted to see the Saints win. That obviously did not happen. But now I've made my pick, and I'm going Green Bay, and I'm saying go Pack go for the first time in my life. And I know, going against Tom Brady, and I know John's disappointed, and John wants me to be the bandwagon Tom Brady guy like everyone else in New England, but I'm like, no, I want to see something different for once, and I'm not going to change my mind. And if the Bucs win, they win, then that's great. And honestly, from there, if Bucks make it to the Super Bowl, all right, I'll go for Tom and I'll go for the Bucks. But until then, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. In terms of the AFC, I said it in the beginning, that Bills team could surprise you. They've made it this far. I'm not surprised. The only thing, I mean, Kansas City's a tough team. They're a good team. The only thing that would make me question it would be the complete health of Patrick Mahomes at this point. I know he's still in concussion protocol, and I think he's doing well with it, but no one really knows just how 100% he will be come kickoff. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So what happened to Mahomes was not a concussion. If you know what concussions are, he did not get a concussion. He had like a compressed nerve. Like he had something happen. What concerns me about it is because that stuff can come back. Nerve damage can go on forever or whatever, right? So
yeah,
they said he didn't have a concussion. He had a nerve damage. So, but essentially what happened was his spine got compressed, and when he stood up, his equilibrium was off. And I've experienced that, and I've publicly talked about that. I have a balance disorder, which is challenging from time to time. You can do stuff, you can run around, it's not a big deal, but it happened, and when it happens, it's challenging for him. So that'll be interesting to watch. I still think they're a really good team. Chad Henne's not a joke. By the way, people are like, oh, Chad Henne, first playoff win. Isn't that first playoff pass? Henne was a good quarterback, man. He'd been in the league for like 14 years. And he played at Michigan. He was a stud. He was way better than Brady was at Michigan. So I don't think they're a joke with Henne at the helm. I think they're still going to be okay. They're going to play the offense the way they are. The Bills are really friggin' good, man. And yeah. I'll be honest, I'm a Brady homer. I just love watching Brady. I love watching excellence. Like I love watching LeBron. I love watching Steph Curry. I love watching, as much as I hate him, I love watching Kevin Durant. I like watching James Harden play basketball. I like Aaron Rodgers playing football. I like Drew Brees. Like I want to watch the greats play and be great. Josh Allen is pretty close to that if he continues doing what he's doing. And he's the real deal. Besides Brady, I'll be honest. I want Bills versus Bucks. I think it'll be the best game. Either one's going to be fine, but I would love Bills versus Bucks. But none of it's going to play up. The Bucks Packers game is going to be huge. I mean, that's just massive. You got the MVP of the league, Aaron Rodgers, incredible year. You've got the greatest of all time playing in his 14th conference championship, and you've got a really interesting storyline on the other side. I think this whole situation is really good for football, and good for it as a sport. And obviously, it'd be great to have Tampa in Tampa, which I think is probably going to happen. But it's just a really good situation in the sport because it's exciting. It's really exciting. You've got literally living legends playing football right now against each other. And I would say Patrick Mahomes, with his injury, he stays injury free. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. If he has 2 or 3 more years injury free, he's still going to be a Hall of Famer. And Josh Allen's an up and coming guy. And I always tell people I'm an AFC East person. So for me, when the Patriots, the only team I hate in the AFC East are the Jets. I hate them. Cannot stand them. I like the Bills. I like the Dolphins. I'm a Patriots guy, and then Tom Brady after. But we got a lot of exciting stuff going on. The Celtics are playing tonight. They got a 2-game series with the Philadelphia 76ers, which is going to be fun to watch. And I love what basketball is doing this year with series. They're having multiple games against the same team. So you kind of have like a playoff atmosphere in that sport. Same thing with baseball. And the sports have done a really good job in being creative with this. And I hope, as I said before on the show, I hope when they don't have to be as creative, they keep being creative, because it's made a really exciting thing for us as the consumer to consume that good that they're providing to us. So it's going to be fun. A great weekend coming up with football. The Super Bowl is going to be a good time no matter what. We'll see what happens with that. But no, it's just, I think sports have been really creative. The big leagues have been good. There's been challenges. And NASCAR's starting up in like 3 weeks, right, man?
Oh, I am so excited. I saw the first promo.
My mom texted me. She goes, you remember how much fun you and I had? Because I was at my family's house during COVID. I couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time there anyway, but I don't live there. I lived there for 6 months as a grown adult. And my mom says, remember how much fun we had watching NASCAR? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And she had to ask me who we root for. I'm like, we root for Kyle Busch. We also like Kevin Harvick as well. But but it was fun. Sports did a good job, and it was really a big part of what people did, and they got creative and they created a good product, and they've done a good job. So I'm looking forward to where we're at. This is an exciting time for us as consumers here in the U.S. in terms of sports consumers, and it's going to be a lot of good stuff going on the next few weeks.
I was going to ask Kurt, because he's been quiet, if he's a sports guy, but I just saw his comment that said Tom Brady for president 2024 in the chat.
Kurt,
Well, I'm not a real sports guy, no.
No, I'm not either. That's why I don't talk.
But you're not a sports guy, but you've run into a lot of people, and I say you don't have to name names. I know you have a very close friend of yours that's a fisherman and does some things. But you've met a lot of these athletes over the years. You and I have done some sports and things together, some sporting events together. You and I went to an AFC playoff game against the. That was speaking of a night. Wow, that's for another show. But I may or may not have serenaded.
Surprised we're not still incarcerated.
True. But you've run into a lot of these sports people, and cigars are a big part of that, right? Like a lot of these guys are cigar smokers.
Oh yeah, a lot of them are. We're fortunate we get to mingle with a couple of them here in New Hampshire, but it seems like cigars are very popular in that world, and I'm happy for it.
I think it's definitely obviously celebratory. Usually all the championships they have cigars, but I mean, there's been players of all sports over the years who've come out as regular cigar smokers. I mean, I don't think there's anybody athlete-wise. I mean, maybe you guys will disagree, but I don't think there's anyone that's been more associated with cigars as a professional athlete than Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan is known as he smokes all day long, from the time he gets up to when he goes to bed. John and I, as you guys know from earlier, last year when it was going on, the Last Dance documentary about the Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. I mean, every episode, I mean, there was multiple times when he's just shown smoking in his hotel room, the locker room, just having a cigar. And I think
essentially like a cigar documentary, right? Like it was like a cigar documentary. Like for me, it was like a cigar documentary. He sat there, he was smoking the whole time. And I've run into people before that have been associated with him. One guy, I ran into Brad Doherty one time. I was in Indianapolis, and he sat down, and I knew who he was. So he sat down and said, "Hey, I know you look familiar." And he's like, "I'm Brad," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know him." And so anyway, we started sitting having cigars, and he told me the story of like an NBA Finals, and they were very close. They played at North Carolina together, and he was telling me the story about Jordan and how, like, he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna have the car come pick you, Brad. I'm gonna have the car come pick you up, whatever. We're gonna go to the game, blah blah." And he said as soon as he got in the car, Jordan smoking a cigar. He smoked two on the ride to the stadium. They played the game. When they were done, they rode back to the hotel together. He smoked two on the way to the hotel back. And there's really no more legendary, in my opinion. Maybe Winston Churchill. There's no more synonymous cigar smoker than probably Michael Jordan.
That whole documentary, when they would cut to like when he was at home. There was like two different angles they had. I think they were filmed at different times, but at all times, if you notice on the table next to him, he has an ashtray with a cigar ready to go. And the opening scene where he's sitting, he's looking out the window, whatever, he's smoking I believe it was a Monte Cristo, number 2, if I remember correctly. He just has a cigar the whole time. I mean, just smoking the whole time. Like you said, it was like almost like a cigar documentary. It was just him smoking during the whole thing. Which is great, and I would agree with that. I think celebrity-wise, other than Winston Churchill, I think Michael Jordan really takes the cake. He's an avid cigar smoker, crazy cigar smoker, but it's awesome.
And during another one is during the cigar boom, the late '80s or the '90s, Johnny Carson was probably one of the more well-known cigar smokers too. I mean, he was smoking cigars every single night on the Tonight Show. Which was huge, which was what part of the cigar boom was about. I mean, you had these celebrities smoking cigars, man, and people wanted them, and it was huge. It was a big part, but it's fun to watch this little boom we're in. And you're experiencing it too, Kurt. I'm sure with your brand at 724, as you try to manufacture and get as much as you can with that, and also at your retail stores, this is a little boom. There's people looking for value and looking for experiences, and as I said, I can't say it enough that what this has had, and part of the sports side, and the sports world has embraced it. I mean, we watched Joe Burrow last year during the national championship game, light up a cigar, hang out, and chill. We watch these celebrities have this, and there's really nothing that matches what this experience is. And this last 16 months has shown us that that this is really something special. So, Kurt, question: What is your favorite? Not just in flavor or whatever, but what is your favorite go-to 724 cigar?
Oh boy, you know what? I
know
really like
you
that.
like the Londres, right?
Yeah, the Londres. That's the original blend with the Brazilian wrapper and the Londres, which is definitely my favorite. It's a 5x42 closed foot. I love that. I'm running really low on those right now. I have very little. I have none to sell, and I'm hoarding like the last few boxes until my next delivery, which is I'm not even sure when.
Yeah, that's the biggest disadvantage right now is just the unknown of getting product.
Matapina right now is hard to come by. It's almost like broadleaf. And,
Yeah.
Trying to find the right quality Matapina for wrapper is not easy.
The challenge with Matafina is everybody started using it, right? So everybody started using this wrapper, then it got started used as binder. Because it really added a nice enhancement to a lot of blends. And it's funny because there's a lot of trends in the business, and when a trend starts, people smoke it, and Matafina is from Brazil, so it was Brazilian Matafina. So they're tobacco growers and tobacco brokers. So the broker goes out and starts talking about how good the Matafina is. So everybody's got Matafina, everybody's using Matafina, or they slowly start to use it. And then that broker's got this great business going, and then people can't get it because there's only a limited amount, and they start growing more. So it ebbs and flows. The one tobacco for me, and I don't know if you use it on any of your blends as wrapper, maybe binder, I think you might. The one to me that's always been the most unique there's never really seemed to be a shortage, and it's I think it's underrated in terms of its recognition is San Andreas. There doesn't ever seem to be a shortage of great San Andreas tobacco.
Which is funny because
it's
insanely popular.
Yeah, but there seems to be a ton of it, and it must just be how the growing regions work. But Matafina is definitely one of those. Everybody started using Matafina. Arabiaca was another one, and then there's another Brazilian tobacco called Cubra, which is a Habano seed. It's essentially Habano seed hybrid grown in Brazil, which became really popular. So it's super challenging when you run into that stuff, and it takes time. And the thing is, the growth is the challenge, right? So like the more laundresses you sell, the better it sells, the harder it is to get that tobacco because they're allotting and preparing for what you're going to make. And we're the same thing we're dealing with, the way we're buying it. You buy based off of what you think you're going to make and what you can have because you don't want to just have it sitting around. And then it gets to a point where either your manufacturer or us as a manufacturer, we try to make the decision. It's like, you know what, hey, let's buy some more and see where it goes. And then maybe a trend changes and something, and, San Andreas becomes popular again. Sumatra. Broadleaf, I think, is the most challenging, right? I think right now broadleaf is probably the most challenging.
I think
the way
so.
It seems. Yeah, broadleaf's it's hard to come by. I haven't even made any attempt to use broadleaf because I know the shortage and what it takes to get it, and I don't want to be in that line as much as I'd love to create something with that.
Well, I think with broadleaf too, the big thing is, so if you can't get the top grade for wrapper, then there's the secondary demand because you're looking for the flavor profile from it. So people are like, oh, we'll use it as binder so we can get the second grade. So then you have a shortage of A grade and B grade tobacco because everybody's using a wrapper and binder. And then you've seen people over the last 5, 6, 7 years using it is filler tobaccos too. So from all the gradings of broadleaf are getting used. And it's not something you can duplicate. Like you can't take, you got like Connecticut shade, right? You can do Connecticut shade, Connecticut, use the term short, but you can do shade tobacco anywhere. So you can take a similar strain of Connecticut say it's Habano, Criollo. I think Criollo is the big one in Connecticut for wrapper. It might be, I think it's Criollo. If you take Criollo, you can grow Criollo in these other countries and grow it under shade. You can't do broadleaf, in my opinion, anywhere else the way they do it in Connecticut, because if you could, somebody'd be doing it. It's not happening anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that tobacco.
Well, they're trying. They're
doesn't-
definitely trying in other areas. And I think
Yeah,
I
they
even
are.
saw
And
a
it-
cigar recently. They're using Pennsylvania, but I just saw a cigar. I don't remember what it was, but advertised as a Massachusetts broadleaf, which is the Connecticut Valley, I believe,
Yeah. But you look
in
at
Virginia.
Yeah, you look at that, but that's going to still be expensive, right? So it's going to be challenging. So even if they can grow it, so they got Virginia broadleaf, Pennsylvania broadleaf, you got the Connecticut River Valley through Massachusetts, similar tobaccos, same area, but it's still going to be challenged. And probably some of the Connecticut broadleaf is grown in Massachusetts or in that River Valley. But the real savings comes when you can take a strain of plant and grow it in like Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, in those areas. And it hasn't seen, because of the climate, that you can take that broadleaf and bring it down to the DR or Ecuador and grow that. Like it's not working. Because if it was, somebody'd be doing it. You have false Cameroon that's grown in other countries. They take Habano seed that's grown in Cameroon and bring it somewhere else and call it Cameroon. But there's no broadleaf alternative. And hats off to Connecticut and the Connecticut River Valley, because it's just not able to be duplicated.
Guys, we are running out of time. I just noticed the time on the show. We are running out of time, so I'm gonna end that there. But before we do wrap up, it's time for our closing remarks. I'm gonna throw it to Nicole first. I know she's got a couple things she wants to say, and then we'll go to Kurt and we'll wrap it up there.
So for all of our lovely Smokin Tabacco followers, couple things. We just started Monday Night Herfs back up. So this past Monday, in the Smokin Tabacco Club group on Facebook, we've been herfing. We had a great group this week. So every Monday going forward, that's the thing. You can join us through Zoom. And next week's shows, we have quite the lineup actually. So we have 3 shows kind of going on next week. We have Wednesday. John's face like lit up right there.
I have to be here 3 times.
Two for you.
All right, 2.
So next week on our Wednesday show, we actually have Matt Booth from Room 101 Cigars. So he's going to be on. That'll be a fun show. Thursday, we are going to be talking with Abe Dababna from Smokin, and we're going to be talking specifically about the Great
Smoke?
The Great Smoke, yep. And that event coming up. And then Friday, Matthew and I are going to be at Two Guys Smoke Shop, and we're going to be doing some behind-the-scenes footage from their meatball event where hopefully, well, I'm rooting for Steve Saka to win again for the 3rd year in a row.
God.
Oh, God.
Here we go. Here comes the drama.
So they're actually going to be broadcasting that event for a fee. So you can you can buy the online ticket. So the Cigar Authority podcast will be doing that. You actually get a sampler with your ticket, but we're going to be behind the scenes doing some stuff and going live. So that's free, obviously, to watch us. You won't be watching the main event, but we'll be doing some other stuff there. So next week, big week, lots of things going on. That's all.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be busy. It's going to be exciting. So make sure you guys check that out. Yeah, we'll probably be live at some point on Friday for that event. It won't be like a regular show. We'll definitely have some live stream, some other footage. Maybe we'll get up on social media. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I just really quickly, I want to go to Kurt really quick. Kurt, thank you for coming on. It's a short window of time that we have here on the show, and there's so much. I know there's so much that you have to offer. I tried to hit on all platforms there, as best I could. I know you're a wealth of knowledge too. So hey, thank you for coming on the show, and we really appreciate it. We had a great time. Before we close up, I always throw it to the guests to see if they have anything they want to say. Closing remarks. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for inviting me. I really appreciate this and helping me spread my word and showcase what we do. I appreciate that. It's a true honor to be here, but it's also an honor to be in this industry and to do what we do and to meet such great people like you and everybody else that we're associated with. it's really fun to see what's going on in the industry with a lot of new things. You mentioned Abe Smokin. He's doing virtual event. You got a lot of exciting things going on, and like John said earlier, hopefully the fourth quarter is going to really open up for a lot of cigar events and fun things to do. And I think a lot of new things are going to happen in our cigar world. A lot of change in all the aspects of it, from sales, manufacturing, marketing, retail. It's exciting time, and to watch guys like Herklotz and what he's doing, and
Yep. He froze a little bit.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's certainly a special time to be here. And I know, Matthew, you're going to throw it to me. So, it's certainly a special time to be in this business. And I think there's no business that, I know the word pivot gets used a lot. There's no business that pivoted better than the premium cigar industry. And we were able to do it. And it's small businesses. Small businesses are able to make decisions quickly. And like I said, what you've done at Twin Smoke Shop has been fascinating over the last year for me. It's been fascinating for me since we met, but you've done great during this environment, and hopefully your brands continue to do that with 724. If there's retailers watching, there's no better history in premium cigars, and there's no better story to tell than the 724 story. So if you're thinking about it, I would highly recommend it. I'm not saying that because he's my friend and he's a good supporter of the brand. The brand that I represent. I don't roll punches with anything, and I would highly recommend taking a chance on that. If it's something you're doing as a cigar smoker, seek them out. I know one of your tech catchphrases is "smoke a piece of history." I think there's no other way to smoke that kind of history. Like when you smoke it, that's what's behind it. You saw it here tonight. So Kurt, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being on the show for sure. Second, we've got Hacking Gourmet coming out on Monday, January 25th, brand new episode. We're going to be announcing our February gourmet smoke session. That got to have a change of venue, but we've got a great venue for it. And that's going to be a really great time. That'll be on February 19th at Gourmet Session, but we'll announce it on January 25th. And the very final gourmet session before our grand finale gala, our very final gourmet smoke session, conveniently, will be with Twin Smoke Shop in the 724 Lounge in New Hampshire in December of 2021. So there's definitely something exciting that will be going on there. So I haven't made that public yet. I think Kurt and I have talked about that, but we'll be doing that in December. So that'll be the very final gourmet session. So we've got something really fun planned for there, and that's home away from home. So we'll pull out all the stops for that. So if you're a planner, plan ahead for December. But Hacking Gourmet, January 25th, we'll be announcing our next session. And that's all I got.
Yeah, Kurt, John kind of jumped right in there, but thank you for the kind words. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you had a good time, and we obviously will be seeing you, in the future. We look forward to to more, more good times with 724 and the 724 Lounge. In terms of me, that's really going to do it. I think everyone kind of hit the nails on the head there. Kurt, don't go anywhere. Just stay with us for a second. But we'll see you next week for an action-packed week. A lot going on next week, so make sure you stay in. Oh, and also, really, actually, for those of you guys who are on, I just remember this because it's so new. We did start our own Discord server. So for those of you guys that want a little bit more out of the Smokin Tabacco experience, want to shoot the shit more, chit chat, get involved, we have our own Discord server.
Service.
Yeah. It's almost
Chat
like its own
room.
little virtual chat room with different rooms for different topics, different themes. So we have our own now. You can find us. We're all over the
We
place.
do everything.
We're trying to do
Literally
everything. So you can find us on Discord.
Discord's a big deal, man. It is a big deal.
So we're on there too. And as always, I don't know if we mentioned this, but tonight we are live streaming not only to Facebook, but we are streaming to our YouTube channel. So make sure you do go on and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see all of our past episodes as well as any other content that we have up there. But also, if you like watching us on YouTube, subscribe. You'll always get the notifications so you know when we're online. And with that, we'll see you guys next week. Stay smoky. Take care.